بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So this is the second workshop in this series in studying Arkanul Iman, the 6 pillars of Iman. And again, for this lesson we've printed out the workbooks, and you should have your notes and workbooks with you from the previous lesson. And every time before we begin the next lesson, we're going to revise the previous lesson, inshallah. And when you're answering the questions, please do raise your hand when answering the question. So the first question is, what are the conditions for a person to sit and lean against the wall? And you can answer from that side. The condition is, if you're old in age, or you've got a bad back, and I don't think, inshallah, anybody here is old in age or got a bad back, so tafadhal, come forward, inshallah. Come close, inshallah. Okay, the first thing that we went through, right, what is the difference between Aqidah and Tawheed? What is the difference between Al-Aqidah and Al-Tawheed? Clear answers. What is the difference between Aqidah and Al-Tawheed?
So Aqidah is everything that Al-Iman encompasses, which is all the 6 pillars. Everything that contains is in it, and everything that branches out from it.
Excellent.
And Tawheed is the first pillar, which is belief in Allah.
Excellent. Al-Iman billah. So therefore, which one is more general and comprehensive, and which one is more specific in its meaning? Is the study of Aqidah greater in terms of the issues that we study, or is Tawheed big and greater in terms of the issues which you study? Which one is more broader? Aqidah. So why is Aqidah more broader, more general?
Because it encompasses Tawheed and then more.
Ahsan. So Tawheed and the study of Tawheed is a part of Al-Aqidah. Because we said Al-Aqidah, it is the 6 pillars of Iman, and then everything connected to the 6 pillars of Iman. And this is why in Aqidah we may study some of the deviated sects. Why? Because the deviated sects, they opposed one of the 6 pillars of Iman, or one of the branches of Al-Iman. We study the signs before Yawm al-Qiyamah. Why? Because the signs before Yawm al-Qiyamah branches off from and is connected to Al-Iman bil Yawm al-Akhir. So Tawheed, it refers to the first pillar, which is Al-Iman billah. And Aqidah is all of the pillars of Iman, everything connected to them. What is the difference between Al-Aqidah and Al-Fiqh? What is the difference between Al-Aqidah and Al-Fiqh?
Al-Aqidah is our belief and who we believe in, and verse fiqh is how we worship Allah Azza wa Jal.
Excellent. So Aqidah, it is ahkamun ilmiyah. It is knowledge-based or belief-based rulings. And fiqh, ahkamun amaliyah, action-based rulings. So give me an example of a question or an issue or mas'ala that we study within Aqidah, and give me an example of a mas'ala or an issue which we study in fiqh. No. So what kind of masail do we study in Aqidah?
Where is Allah Almighty?
Ahsant. Where is Allah Azza wa Jal? Another thing that we study in Aqidah, another mas'ala of Aqidah.
Qadr.
Sorry?
Qadr.
نعم. Al-Qadr, or the decree of Allah. Third one.
Names and attributes of Allah.
How do we understand the beautiful names and attributes of Allah? Okay, Masail al-Fiqh. Give me an example of a mas'ala which is studied in fiqh. Where's Abdullah? Abdullah? Do you know? Who else? People who haven't answered so far. Abdullah. No. Amar? Good. What are the conditions or the pillars of nikah? What invalidates a person's nikah? How is a talaq done? What is the iddah for a talaq? All of these issues pertain to fiqh. Okay. Is salah fard or not? Aqeedah or fiqh? Fiqh. No, aqeedah. Aqeedah. Even though it relates to something which is action based, but the mas'ala itself is aqeedah based. Do you believe salah is wajib or not? And of course the ulama, they mention this in books of fiqh because it's all connected, but it's actually aqeedah. And this is why if a person denies the obligation of salah, even if he prays. If a person prays the 5 salawat, but denies the obligation of salah, kafir. And not only salah, every action which is legislated in Islam, which is clear and known by default. Yani if a woman says that I wear the hijab, I wear the niqab, and I wear the hijab and the niqab perfectly, but I do not believe that it is an obligation. I don't believe it's legislated. I don't believe it's part of our Islam. I wear it, but I don't believe that it's part of Islam. This is kufr. Why? Because it is known with darura that in Islam, hijab, niqab, jilbab, it is legislated in al-Islam. Same with hajj. If a person does hajj every single year of his life, but negates its obligation, this is kufr. So sometimes you might think something is from fiqh, but it's actually from al-aqeedah. Sometimes, these are all side benefits, you may find an issue of fiqh and ulama mention it in books of aqeedah. So for example, you will see in books of aqeedah, books of the sunnah, which were authored by the Salaf, they mention, for example, al-masih al-khuffayn, wiping over the over footwear. And they say, وَيَرَوْنَ الْمَسْحَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ, that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, their aqeedah is that it is valid for a person to wipe over al-khuf. Of course, we're not talking about whether the khuf is made out of leather, or it is fabric socks, or it is we're talking about just the legislation of al-khuf. Now, why would they mention an issue which is clearly the issue of fiqh? Why would they mention it in books of aqeedah? Who knows? And it's something as, and of course there's nothing insignificant in Islam, but something as a subsidiary as al-masah al-khuffayn. Why would this be mentioned in books of aqeedah that the Salaf authored? Anybody? Luban, what do you think?
Because if you think about it, like washing is from obligation, and someone wiping over it, if they don't believe that it's from, like if it covers the right, then it goes against this.
Anybody else?
Is it because the evidences are that clear?
Good answer. Is there anybody else?
Is it because sometimes there might be a group who negates the fact that wiping over the socks or wiping over footwear is part of Islam?
All of them are good answers, not far off, because there are certain actions of fiqh which became a clear distinction between Ahl Sunnah and Ahlul Bid'ah. So for example, al-Masj al-Khuffayn, they say that this was mentioned because amongst the Rawafid are those who negate al-Masj al-Khuffayn. And so because this became a clear distinction between the Rafidah and between Ahl Sunnah, even if it may be a subsidiary matter, but because all of Ahl Sunnah, they agree upon this issue and they do not, then they say this is part of our Aqidah, to distinguish us and our Aqidah from them and their Aqidah. طيب, what is the, and don't look at your notes, what is the Shara'i definition or the Islahi definition of Al-Iman in Arabic? What is the Shara'i or the Islahi definition of Iman in Arabic? No.
Yeah, so it's tasdeeq, so linguistically.
Shara'i.
Oh, it's the Shari. Oh, okay. I think the Salaf used to say it's conviction in the heart.
In Arabic.
Oh, in Arabic. Oh, subhanallah, you got me now. لا أدري.
Anybody else?
الاعتقاد بالقلب
اعتقاد بالقلب
قول باللسان
وقول باللسان
والعمل بالجوارح
وعمل بالجوارح.
يزيد بطاعة الله تعالى
نعم.
وينقص بالمعصية الله.
نعم. يزيد بالطاعة وينقص بالمعصية. Iman, it consists of belief in the heart, statement upon the tongue, action upon the limbs, increases in obedience to Allah and decreases out of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there a difference between Islam and Iman? Is there a difference between Islam and Iman?
If they're mentioned independently, then it's referring to the same thing. But if they're mentioned together, then there's a difference.
Ahsan. So, in Islamic knowledge, there are certain terms. They say, إذا اجتمع افترق وإذا افترق اجتمع. Terms that when they are separate, they come together. And they come together, they are separated. So, like for example, Iman and Islam. Like for example, Faqir and Miskin. The word Faqir and the word Miskin, they mean exactly the same thing. Islamically, there's no difference between Al-Faqir and Al-Miskin. Fulan is Faqir, he's a Miskin. Fulan is Miskin, he is a Faqir. But we find in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions them as distinct categories in terms of zakah. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. And so, when they come together, each one has a specific meaning. When they are mentioned independent of each other, it means the same thing. Same with Islam and Iman, Muslim and Mu'min. A Muslim is a Mu'min is a Muslim. Islam is Iman, Iman is Islam. No difference between it. But when Islam and Iman are mentioned within one sentence or one context, then they have independent meanings. So when they are mentioned together, what does Islam refer to? What does Iman refer to?
Islam is the outward actions, Iman is your inward beliefs.
Excellent. And what's the evidence for this?
5 pillars of Islam being actions.
Excellent. And
6 pillars of Iman
being
inward beliefs.
inward beliefs. The hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. Excellent. Okay, how many branches does Iman have? How many branches of the law?
70.
More than 70. Yeah, so you say 70 odd. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Imanu bid'un wa sab'una. And bid' is from 2 to 9. So it's 70 odd. Over 70. What's the highest branch of Iman? Yusha, do you know? The highest branch of Iman? Huh? Do you know? No. Is that your brother? What's your name? Muhammad. Yalla Muhammad. Do you know the highest branch of Iman? Abdullah? Saying La ilaha illallah. Qawlu La ilaha illallah. And the lowest branch of Iman, you shall remember? The lowest branch of Iman. Zakat is from Iman, well done. Tafadhal Abdullah.
Taking something harmful off the street.
أحسنت. والحياء شعبة من شعب الإيمان. الحياء. Does anybody know the meaning of haya? And the definition of haya? It's not the translation. Shyness, that's a translation. It's a partial translation. But the concept of al-haya. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, al-haya'u min al-iman. He said, in al-haya la ya'ti illa bi khair. Haya only brings about goodness. Al-haya, there's haya in front of Allah and there's haya in front of creation. Al-haya in front of Allah is being embarrassed to sin in front of Him, knowing His great right upon you. And al-haya amongst creation is staying away from certain statements, certain behaviors out of embarrassment in front of people. So you don't talk in a particular way, you don't walk in a particular way, you don't laugh in a particular manner. We don't, for example, as Muslims, as practicing Muslims, we don't joke about women. Haya. We don't joke about women in front of other people, in front of women. Haya. We don't make innuendos of a certain nature. Haya. As a practicing Muslim, and every Muslim has to be practicing, but as a person of the Sunnah, you're embarrassed to be seen in particular places or to be hanging around with particular people. All of this comes from al-haya. Right, who can mention for me the 6 pillars of Iman in Arabic? Who can mention for me the 6 pillars of Iman in Arabic? Who knows? Muhammad? Ahsant. Fatah alayk. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yusha, do you remember? أن تؤمن Who knows? Abdullah.
أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وتؤمن بالقدر خيره وشره.
Ahsant. Fatah alayk. So that's a quick revision of last week's lesson. Obviously we went through many more details and the side, but we'll just start with that. And then we come to this week's lesson. And this week's lesson we're going to go through the first pillar of Iman. Ar-Rukn al-Awwal min al-Iman. And it is, what is the first pillar of Iman? What's it? Do you know the first pillar? Al-Imanu? Al-Imanu billah. Khalas? Al-Imanu billah. Yusha, next week I'm going to test you on the 6 pillars of Iman in Arabic. So when you go home, make sure you memorize in the next lesson 6 pillars of Iman. Arkan al-Imanu sitta. Al-Imanu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawm al-akhir wal imanu bil qadri khayrihi wa sharrihi. Like that, okay? In Arabic I'm going to test it inshallah. The 6 pillars of Iman. So the first question in your notebooks, now, the first question is, what are the 3 objectives for which we were created? Meaning, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place us upon this earth? And what is our role upon this earth? And why were we created? And the ulama, they mentioned 3 main objectives. The first of them is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first of them is ibadatullah. And when we say ibadatullah, we mean At-Tawheed. And in the Quran, the word ibadah is synonymous with At-Tawheed. Because as Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah said, وَلَا تُسَمَّ الْعِبَادَةِ عِبَادَةً إِلَّا بِالتَّوْحِيدِ. That ibadah cannot be called ibadah without At-Tawheed. Then he gave an example of that. كَمَا أَنَّ الصَّلَاةَ لَا تَكُونُ صَلَاةً إِلَّا بِالطَّهَارَةِ. Just as salah cannot be salah without at-tahara. For example, if a person came and he said the takbir and he faced the qibla and he recited Fatiha, he made ruku, he did sujood, he recited tashahud and he made at-taslim. And then he said to you, I've done all of this action but I did it without wudu. Would we say that the action of his is salah? No. We say your action is not even called salah. Because the fundamental condition of salah is at-tahara. So if you intentionally prayed without at-tahara, then that action, it is not salah. It's abath. You're just playing around intentionally, not forgetfully. If you intentionally did it without tahara, you're just playing around. These are mere empty actions. So Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah said, just as salah is only considered salah because of tahara, then also ibadah is also only considered ibadah if it is upon at-tawheed. So if a person says that I'm going to make dhikr and recite Quran and make hajj and slaughter the animal and pray salah and give zakah, but I'm going to do it because I hope for reward from the wali. We say this isn't ibadah. You may as well not do those actions because this is not ibadah. So in the Quran, the word ibadah is synonymous with at-tawheed. The reason why I mention this is because there are certain people that present a doubt. They say if tawheed is so important and if tawheed underpins and is a core message of the Quran, then why is the word tawheed not mentioned in the Quran? Why is the word tawheed not mentioned in the Quran? And the answer is simple. Because Allah subhanahu, He speaks about tawheed referring it as an ibadah. What's the evidence for this? What is the opposite of tawheed? Shirk. When Allah subhanahu mentions the opposites in the Quran, what did He say? وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. So the opposite of shirk is at-tawheed. And when Allah subhanahu spoke about shirk, the opposite of it He mentioned as al-ibadah. And this shows therefore ibadah, it is synonymous with at-tawheed. And also to emphasize that you cannot be a muwahhid if you do not make ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't think that if I memorize the definition of tawheed, and if I memorize the evidences of tawheed, and if I know that tawheed is tawheed al-rububiyyah, tawheed al-uluhiyyah, tawheed al-asma wa sifat, that I am a muwahhid. A muwahhid is not based upon you memorizing usul al-thalatha, qawaid al-arba, kitab al-tawheed, aqidat al-wasatiyya, knowing the categories of tawheed, the definition of tawheed, the different levels of tawheed, the invalidity of tawheed. None of this is a condition of a person being a muwahhid. A muwahhid is one who worships Allah upon at-tawheed. You have to make actions based upon at-tawheed to be a muwahhid, not merely memorize the books of at-tawheed. We say that these are the categories of tawheed and this is the definition of tawheed. Let's say a person came along and you said to him, what are the 3 categories of tawheed? And he says, I don't know. If you said to him, what's the definition of tawheed al-rububiyyah? He says, I've never heard of rububiyyah. What's the definition of uluhiyyah al-asma wa sifat? He says, I don't know the technical definition of al-asma wa sifat. If you say to him, what are the contents of al-usul al-thalatha? He says, I've never read or heard of usul al-thalatha in my life. But he worships Allah alone. And he stays away from shirk. Is he a muwahhid or not? He's a muwahhid. Another person comes and you say to him, what's the definition of tawheed? And in Arabic he quotes it. What are the 3 categories of tawheed? In Arabic he quotes them. He's memorized Surah Al-Thalatha, he's memorized Kitab al-Tawheed. But he does not establish the worship of Allah. Is he a muwahhid? He's not a muwahhid. And this is why Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma in the tafsir of وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, he said لِيَعْبُدُونَ أي لِيُوَحِّدُونَ. That the meaning of يَعْبُدُونَ is يُوحِدُونَ. And Shaykh Muhammad ibn Wahhab rahimahullah, he said وَمَعْنَى الْعِبَادَةِ التَّوْحِيدِ. That the meaning of ibadah is at-tawheed, meaning every time the word ibadah is mentioned in the Quran, its intent is at-tawheed. So it's synonymous in the Quran. And sometimes also al-ikhlas. So sometimes tawheed is mentioned in the Quran, but with the wording of al-ikhlas. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ أَلَا لِلَّهِ الدِّينُ الْخَالِصِ, meaning a deen of at-tawheed. So the first objective why we were created is to establish the ibadah and tawheed of Allah subhanahu. And what's the evidence for this? That we were created for the worship of Allah. What's the evidence in Arabic? Who knows? Put your hands up.
وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ.
أحسنت. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create jinn or mankind except to worship, meaning I only created them except for them to worship. The second objective for us being upon this earth, the ulama, they say al-ibtila wal-imtihan. So firstly al-ibadah wal-tawheed, secondly al-ibtila wal-imtihan, for us to be tested. Allah places upon this earth and He created whatever He created around us, and He made certain things desirable to us, wealth and women and shahawat and luxuries of this life. Why? As a test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, who knows the evidence for this? That we were created to be tested. Yeah. Ahsan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ. The one who created death and life, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, in order to test you. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ from al-ibtila. And then the third reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us is for us to learn about Him and to know about Him. For us to learn about Him and to know about Him. And this is al-Iman. This is why we should learn about al-Iman billah. Because Allah created us for us to know about Him and to learn about Him. And what's the evidence for this? Does anybody know the evidence? Anybody know the evidence? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. And know, فَعْلَمْ, that there is no deity worthy of worship except Him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the ayahs in your workbooks, اللَّهُ الَّذِي خَلَقَ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ وَمِنَ الْأَرْضِ مِثْلَهُمْ يَتَنَزَّلُ الْأَمْرُ بَيْنَهُمْ لِتَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah is the one who created the seven heavens and the earth similar to them, and His command descends between them. Why? لِتَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So you may know that Allah's complete ability over everything. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ, and that so you may know that Allah, His knowledge, it covers, extends to everything. And where is the shahid in this ayah? The shahid is the letter li. Before the word ta'lamu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allahu alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawati wa min al-ardi mithlahunna yatanazzalu al-amru baynahunna. Then He said, li ta'lamu. And that lam with a kasra underneath, who knows what that lam is called? Where are the students of Nahu? La. Laysa lam al-mulk. Who knows? Huh? La. Lam al-ta'leel. Lam At-Ta'leel. And Lam At-Ta'leel is the lam which is used in order to provide a reason for doing something. جئت إلى المسجد لأصلي. I came to the masjid لأصلي, due to, for the reason of, because, in order to pray. So this lam al-ta'leel, it shows you the illah behind an action or a decision, either reasoning, the cause, the why behind doing something. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allahu alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawat, Allah created 7 heavens and the earth, and the command descends between them, He said, li, because, why? In order to, for the reason of ta'alamu, so you may know. Meaning everything which is around you, the trees, mountains, seas, the sun, the moon, you yourselves, all of this creation is li ta'alamu, so you may know that Allah's complete ability over everything. So you may have Imaan in Allah subhanahu, so you may learn about Allah subhanahu, so your Imaan may increase in Allah Jalla Sha'nuhu. So these are the 3 objectives why we were created. After this, why should we learn about Allah? Or why should we learn about Al-Iman Billah? Or why is studying Al-Iman Billah important? Now, who knows? Why should we study about Allah subhanahu? Yusha, what do you think? Why should we learn about Allah? Sorry? He's generous. Because, as Yusha said, our Lord subhanahu, who created us and provides for us and shows His mercy and is generous, His right upon us is how we learn about Him. His right upon us is how we learn about Him. And the hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu, he said, Ya Mu'adh, أتدري ما حق الله على العباد. Oh Mu'adh, do you know the right of Allah upon people? And then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أن يعبدوه ولا يشركوا به شيئا. That they should worship Him alone and they should not ascribe partners to Him. So from the right of Allah upon us is At-Tawheed wal-Iman. And a part of Tawheed, in fact the foundation of Tawheed is learning about Allah subhanahu. Another reason why we should learn about Allah, or we should learn about Al-Iman Billah, why we should study.
So you may love Him.
Ahsant. Because a person can only truly love Allah subhanahu and fear Allah subhanahu if he knows and learns about Him and about His attributes and descriptions and names and actions and His wisdom. And this is why Allah subhanahu said, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That the people who truly have khashya of Allah from amongst all His worshippers are the ulama, those who know. Because they know more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أَلَا إِنِّي أَتْقَاكُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَأَخْشَاكُمْ وَإِنِّي أَعْلَمُكُمْ بِاللَّهِ. He said, verily, I am more fearful of Allah amongst you and have a greater khashya amongst you, because I am more knowing of Allah subhanahu than you. Another reason, why should we learn about Allah subhanahu? No. Why is Iman Billah important?
So you can teach others.
Ahsan. Because the obligation upon a person is firstly that he learns, and then he implements that which he has learned, and then he teaches others that which he has learned, and then he's patient upon it. Surah Al-Asr. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And Al-Iman is based upon knowledge. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And then you implement that which you have learned. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. And then you call and you encourage others to that which you have learned. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And then you are patient. And you are patient upon what? Patient upon learning, and patient upon actions, and patient upon da'wah. Why should we learn about Allah? Why is Imaan billah important?
To save yourself from Jahannam.
Because the only way for a person to succeed in this life and the hereafter is through al-Imanu billah. Without Iman, there is no salvation, there is no success. And the first greatest pillar of Iman is al-Imanu billah. We said al-Imanu billah is synonymous with al-Tawheed. Man kana akhiru kalamihi la ilaha illallah dakhala al-Jannah. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, any person whose last statement is La ilaha illallah will enter into Jannah. The statement La ilaha illallah is synonymous with Al-Imanu billah. And you cannot say La ilaha illallah and then you don't have Iman billah. Any other reason? Why is learning about Allah, Al-Imanu billah, At-Tawheed, why is it so important?
To increase your Iman.
To increase your Iman, like we said, to increase in your love of Allah, your fear of Allah, your yaqeen in Allah, all of this is based on your knowledge regarding Allah subhanahu. Because the ulama say, شَرَفُ الْعِلْمِ حَسَبَ شَرَفِ الْمَعْلُومِ, that the nobility and the importance of a particular branch of knowledge is based upon the greatness of that which you are studying. The greatness of a particular science is based upon the greatness of that which you are studying. So, why is the study of medicine so great and noble and so important? Because what you're studying is important. Diseases, human biology, human physiology, cures. So because the subject is so important, therefore the science is so important. When you're studying At-Tawheed and Al-Imanu billah, regarding whom are you studying? Regarding Rabbus Samawati wal Ard. And since there is no thing greater than Allah subhanahu, then there is no knowledge which is as important and as greater than Al-Iman billah wa Tawheed wal Aqidah. So when we say Allahu Akbar, that Allah is the greatest, this also means that studying about Him and Al-Iman billah Akbar. When we say Allahu A'la, that Allah is the highest and most elevated, then this also means that Iman in Allah and studying and knowing about Allah is Al-A'la. When we say Allahu Ajal, Allah is the most exalted, then also the study of Al-Iman billah is the most exalted. Also, we study Al-Iman billah to differentiate between what is Iman, what is Ashirk, and what is Kufr. So if you do not know what is Iman, then how can you know what is Kufr and Ashirk? Al-Iman and Kufr and Ashirk. If you do not know Iman, then you cannot know Kufr and Ashirk. You cannot distinguish. And this is why the core reason why so many people fall away from Islam is because Aslan they are ignorant regarding Iman and Al-Aqidah. The reason why there's a prevalence of sins and disobedience is because they are jahil of the correct Aqidah. And you will see this. You look at any Muslim community in which there are shirkiyat and khurafat and sins and ta'weez and sihr and magic and jinn and these type of things, you'll find that same community is the most ignorant when it comes to the correct Aqidah. And wherever there's a strength in Aqidah, then you see that same community there's a lack of sihr and ta'weez and disobedience and sins and a lack of haya and so on and so forth. Now, so these are some of the reason why we should study Al-Iman billah. The hadith which I mentioned, in which the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Inni atqakum billah wa a'lamukum billah. This is the wording. And the hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. Inni atqakum billah wa a'lamukum billah. I am the most fearing of Allah amongst you, and I am the most knowing Allah amongst you. After this, Al-Iman Billah, it consists of 4 matters that you have to confirm. And this Shaykh Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah mentions in his explanations of Aqidatul Wasatiyya and Usul Thalatha. He said the pillars of Al-Iman Billah is 4: Al-Wujud, Al-Wujud, Al-Rububiyyah, Al-Uluhiyyah, and Al-Asma wa Sifat. Al-Wujud, Al-Rububiyyah, Al-Uluhiyyah, Al-Asma wa Sifat. As a side point, Ikhwah, those amongst you who can write Arabic, then don't revert to English. So if I say Al-Wujud and you're fluent in writing Arabic, don't spell W-U-J-U-D. Write Al-Wujud in Arabic. Wherever you can write in Arabic, then stick to the Arabic. So what is Al-Wujud? Al-Wujud is firstly accepting the existence of the Creator. This is Al-Wujud. And this is the first part of Al-Iman Billah. Accepting the existence of the Creator. That He created everything.
So what was that again?
Al-Wujud is to accept the existence of the Creator. Everything around us was created by the Creator. So therefore, Ikhwatul Iman, evolution, is it mainly a difference of opinion and science, or is it a difference of Iman and Kufr? Iman and Kufr. Anybody who believes in evolution and then that which is around it was not created by Allah subhanahu, and that it was a coincidence, then without doubt this is akfar al-kufr. This is the most severe and disbelief of al-kufr. Secondly is al-rububiyyah, and that's translated loosely as lordship, but we will cover it at a later stage. Al-rububiyyah loosely translated as lordship. Al-uluhiyyah has, there are, I think, I don't know if we mentioned this last time. No, we didn't. Al-uluhiyyah, and Tawheed al-uluhiyyah, there are other words which are synonymous for Tawheed al-uluhiyyah. Does anybody know what they are? Those words? Good. So, Tawheed al-uluhiyyah, we can say Tawheed al-ibadah. Anything else? No, anything else? Tawheed al-ilahiyyah means the same thing. Fourth, Tawheed al-ubudiyyah. So sometimes you find ulama in their books, sometimes they will say Tawheed al-ilahiyyah, sometimes al-uluhiyyah, sometimes al-ubudiyyah, sometimes al-ibadah. All of them mean the same thing. All of them are synonymous with each other. And what they mean is the divine right of Allah to worship. The divine right of Allah to ibadah. Meaning ilahiyya, uluhiyya, ubudiyya, ibadah. It means the same thing. And then finally, al-asma wa sifat. Having iman in the names and the attributes of Allah. So, if a person does not have iman in one of these 4 aspects of al-iman billah, then his iman is non-existent or deficient. Non-existence or deficient. Depending on whether his lack of iman in that particular area, if it is kufr, and therefore is non-existent. Like for example, a person says, I don't believe in the existence of a creator, I believe in evolution, khalas. Then that's his iman has been removed completely. Or like a person who accepts and believes in the names and attributes of Allah, but he misunderstands a name or attribute of Allah. We don't say his iman is now gone completely, but it is deficient or diminished. After this, what are the 4 ways to prove al-wujud? So existence of Allah, we said al-wujud. What are the 4 ways by which we know of the existence of the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala? Firstly, they say al-aql, that the sound intellect, it accepts the existence of a Creator. The sound intellect, it accepts the existence of the Creator. Because logically, there's 3 scenarios behind creation. Logically, there's 3 scenarios behind creation. Either creation created creation, and that doesn't make sense, it's illogical because you go round and round. Chicken and egg, you go round and round. Or absence, yani non-existence, created existence, and that's illogical. Or the Creator created creation. So on a logical level, what makes sense? It can't be that existence created existence, because existence was absent. It cannot be that nothing created something. And this therefore leaves aqlan, that the Khaliq, he created makhluk. The Creator, he created creation. And also, because we believe in cause and effect. We believe in cause and effect. وَمَا مِن مَخْلُوقٍ إِلَّا لَهُ خَالِقٌ. That there's no effect except there's a cause behind it. There's no effect except that there's a cause behind it. There's no muhdith except there's a hadith. There's no event except there's a cause behind the event. And also, because science tells us that chaos does not bring about order. Science tells us that chaos does not bring about order. If anything is opposite. So it cannot be that there was chaos and nothing, and then this resulted in everything which is around us and how perfectly it has been designed and ordered. It's not possible. Scientifically, it's not possible. And these scenarios which I mentioned, either creation created creation, or absence created existence, or there was a creator. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran in Surah At-Tur. Ayah number 35. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. Or were they created out of absence? أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Or are they themselves the creator of themselves? Did existence create existence? أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Or did they create, and did creation create the heavens and the earth? Did creation create creation? بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Rather, they have no yaqeen. Jubayr al-Mut'im radiallahu anhu, he was a mushrik at the time, and when he heard this ayah being recited, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ, were they created from nothing, or did they create themselves? He said, كَادَ قَلْبِي أَنْ يَطِيرُ وَذَلِكَ أَوَّلَ مَا وَقَرَ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قَلْبِي. He said, when I heard this ayah as a mushrik radiallahu anhu, he said, it's as if my heart was about to fly and leave my body. He said, this was the first time that Imaan entered into my heart. These questions. The second way for us to prove the existence of Allah subhanahu is the fitrah. We believe that the existence in the Creator, this is the asl. This is the default. Every human is born with a natural, innate disposition in the existence of a Creator. And that's why the onus or the burden of proof is not to prove that Allah exists. Because we say this is the asl. But the onus and the burden is upon them to prove that Allah does not exist. So if an atheist comes and says that prove to me Allah exists, we say no. This is the asl, this is the fitrah. You prove to me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not exist. And if a person asks, what's the evidence that this is the fitrah? Of course we know, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدُ عَلَى فِطْرَةٍ. Every newborn baby is born upon a fitrah. But if a person said, give me a logical evidence that it is the fitrah and the asl and the innate disposition and belief and creation of every human being that a creator exists. Remember, we are talking about al-wujud. We are talking about the existence of the creator, that everything around it existed. The evidence is that in the dunya there are so many religions that they say just in Africa and India there are hundreds of religions just in Africa. And each one of these religions, hundreds of these religions, all of them believe that there is something which created everything. There's something out there, and regardless of what they believe that created to be. But all of these religions, in their various colors and creeds and faiths, they all believe that there is a creator out there. So the sheer number of religions which exist, believing that there's a creator out there, shows us that this is the asl. And this has been from the very beginning. And atheism is only something which is very new. It's only something which is very recent. In the history of mankind, the asl has always been the belief in a creator or supreme being or whatever they want to call it. Then they differ, or they make shirk, that's something else. And atheism is something which is new, and something which is innovative. And this is why even amongst the kuffar, the atheists, when time becomes desperate for them, what do you hear from them? Oh God, if only. Then they begin to have Imaan in the Creator. So, and this statement which comes out of their mouth when they're desperate, say, oh God, they show that inside them there is the fitrah of there is something out there. And then the third reason or way to prove the existence of Allah is the Sharia, the ayat of the Sharia. The ayat of the Sharia, they prove Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in am humul khaliqun. And those are the ayat in the ayat of the Sharia. And then the fourth way to prove the existence of the Creator, they say al-hiss. So we said al-aql, wal-fitra, wal-shara' wal-hiss. Al-aql is intellect, logic. Al-fitra is the innate, innocent disposition in a person. Al-shara' is the ayat and evidence of the Sharia. And then al-hiss. And al-hiss is that which you perceive through your senses. Yani that which you can see proves the existence of Allah, the Creator. That which you feel and you smell and you taste, that which you perceive through your hiss, your senses, proves the existence of the Creator. Because we said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything as a sign for Him, that He exists. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُوقِنِينَ وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. That upon the earth there are clear signs for the people of certainty. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. And in your own selves, yani your own senses, your perception, clear signs for the existence of the Creator. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Do you not have insight? You only need to ponder and think using your own senses, your own perception, and this will prove to you the existence of the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, also, there are the mu'jizat, the ayat of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the miracles that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent with. In the lesson today in Dar es-Salaam, in alongside, we were going through Imaan bil Yawm al-Akhir, Iman the final day and death and the reality of the dunya. And we said that after dunya, before the akhir, there is a barzakh. There is a barzakh. And the barzakh, hayatul qabr. Barzakh is the life in the grave. And we said that the meaning of barzakh is a barrier. That the asl meaning of barzakh is a barrier, because the life of the grave is the barrier between the dunya and between the akhirah. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu mentioned the word barzakh with the meaning of the barrier. He said, بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. When Allah subhanahu spoke about the two oceans and how those two oceans don't mix, and how there's a clear barrier between the two oceans. And you can see this, even with your own eyes. If you go to Google or YouTube, you can clearly see that two seas are meeting each other and yet they're not mixing. And the asl water that is diluted. But there's a clear barrier which Allah has placed, and He called it a barzakh. How would a person who grew up in the desert and never saw the sea, how would he know of the meeting of the two oceans and they never mixed? How could he? And he had never seen the sea in his life. Neither did he know anything about ships or sailing. Neither did he know any other language. And he was an illiterate, unlettered person. Meaning he never read science, philosophy, history, never knew civilizations, never met with other civilizations. How could he know of Barzakhul La Yabghiyan? Ayatullah Azza wa Jal. All of this proves to us the existence of the Creator. Then after this we go to Ar-Rububiyyah. We go to what is the definition of Ar-Rububiyyah? What is the definition of Ar-Rububiyyah? And Ar-Rububiyyah, the ulama define in one of two ways. They say Ar-Rububiyyah Ifradullahi bi-af'alihi. If you can write Arabic, write Arabic. Ifradullahi bi-af'alihi. Ifradullahi bi-af'alihi. It is to single out Allah in His actions. It is to single out Allah in His actions. Meaning, we believe from the actions of Allah is creation, that He creates. So Rububiyyah means we have to believe He's the only creator. So we have singled Him out as the only creator. We believe from the actions of Allah is a rizq, that He sustains and provides. And therefore Ar-Rububiyyah is to single out Allah, that He is the only sustainer. We believe that from the actions of Allah is At-Tadbir. And At-Tadbir is the control of everything. And who has control of everything? In whose hand is life and death and everything? Allah subhanahu. So part of Rububiyyah is you saying that it is only Allah who controls universe. All of this comes under Tawheed Rububiyyah. Ifradullahi bi-af'alihi. To single out Allah in every action which is exclusive to Him. And some of the ulama, they say that Tawheed Rububiyyah is Ifradullah, to single out Allah بأنه هو الخالق المطلق والرازق المطلق والمالك المطلق والمدبر المطلق. Or, in another way, is إفراد الله بالخلق المطلق والرزق المطلق والملك المطلق والتدبير المطلق. And the meaning of this is to single out Allah with absolute creation and with absolute sustenance and absolute control and absolute authority. Why is that word mutlaq important? Absolute. Because we as humans, we also create. We also manufacture, we create, we innovate. And Allah subhanahu creates. But our creation, it is muqayyad, it is restricted. Because we take something which has been created as raw materials, and then we transform those raw materials into something else we manufacture. So our khalq, our creation, our making, our manufacturing, it is restricted. As for al-khalq al-mutlaq, absolute creation, from nothing to something, from absence to existence, this is Allah subhanahu. And also al-rizq, we also provide. As the head of my household and the father of my children, husband of my wife, I provide. I also put rizq upon the table. But al-rizq al-mutlaq for Allah subhanahu. And also al-mulk, authority and kingdom and ownership. We as the humans, we also have authority and ownership and kingdom. There are kings upon this earth. There are rulers of land. We own certain things. The owner of a house is known as Rabbul Bayt, the Lord of the house, the Lord of the manor. There's nothing wrong with using this term, Rabbul Bayt, the Lord of the manor, the Lord of the house. But Malik al-Muluk, the King of Kings, Maliki Yawmiddin, is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So al-Mulk al-Tam or al-Mulk al-Mutlaq, absolute authority, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why, as a side benefit, they say in Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. He is the Malik of Yawmiddin. Is Allah subhanahu not Malik Yawm Dunya or Yawmiddin? Is he not the Malik of this dunya and the deen? So why did he mention Malik Yawmiddin only? Why not say Malik Dunya, with deen, with Yawmiddin, with Akhirah? And they say that one of the wisdoms or the benefits behind this is that in this dunya, there are those who contend with Allah in terms of mulk. Like Fir'aun, like some of the Tughat and the tyrants and the kings of this world. They contend with Allah in that they are also Malik. But on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Din, nobody will contend with Allah subhanahu. And this is why Allah subhanahu will say on that day, where are the kings and where is the kingdom now? Maliki Yawmiddin. Now, so these are the two definitions of al-Rububiyyah. Either ifradullahi bi-af'alihi, to single out Allah in those actions which are exclusive to Him, or ifradullahi bil-khalq al-tam or khalq al-mutlaq, wal-rizq al-mutlaq, wal-mulk al-mutlaq, wal-tadbir al-mutlaq. Absolute creation, absolute sustenance, absolute ownership, absolute authority. Enough? No. Okay. Why does a person not enter Islam on the mere basis of al-Rububiyyah? Meaning, if somebody accepts the existence of a creator, does that mean he's a Muslim? No. Why? Because the Christians, they believe in the existence of a creator. Al-Yahud, they believe in the existence of a creator. The Hindus, who have hundreds of idols and gods, they still believe in the Supreme Being. They still believe in one Supreme Being. And then they say that these idols and these gods, they are a representation of the one Supreme Being. And even Sikhs, I've been told, a Sikh once told me, he said that the first word of our scripture is in the belief of the Supreme Being. So all of these multiple religions, all of them, they believe in the existence of a creator. So just because a person believes in al-wujud does not necessitate that he is a Muslim or he has entered into Islam. Secondly, because the Quraysh, the Mushrikun, as you know, they also believed in the Rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on your worksheet there's an ayah, but this is the incorrect ayah which has been mentioned. The ayah should be وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. That if you were to ask them, who is the one who created the heavens and the earth, they will say, surely it is Allah. In Surah Al-Ankabut, ayah number 61, Allah said, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. If you were to question them, either mushrikun of Quraysh, who created the heaven and the earth, وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرِ, and who controls the sun and the moon, لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. They will say, surely it is Allah. Surah Al-Ankabut, ayah number 61. In ayah number 63, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Ankabut, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ نَزَّلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. If you were to question them, i.e. O Quraysh, O Mushrikun, O Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, if you question them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you question those same people, who sends rain from the skies, فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, and then gives life to the earth after it has become barren, لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. They will say, surely it is Allah. And there are many ayat with this meaning. So these ayat, and Surah Zukhruf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. And if you were to question them, meaning if you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if you were to question the likes of Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab and the Mushrikun of Quraysh, مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ, who created you? لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. They will say, surely it is Allah. And this is Surah Az-Zukhruf, ayah number 87, Al-Ankabut, ayah number 61, Al-Ankabut, ayah number 63, Az-Zukhruf, ayah number 87, other ayat in the Quran. So this shows us that they believed in the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He creates. Despite them accepting the rububiyyah of Allah, they never became Muslims. Allah still condemned them to Jahannam. And the Messenger still fought against them. So this shows us that the mere acceptance of the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make a person a Muslim. And this is the reason why this is mentioned, because the greatest nonsensical argument of the people of Shirk, your action of going to the people in the grave is similar to the action of the Quraysh. Because they used to also go to the idols and the righteous and the angels. They'll say that no, do not compare our action to the action of the mushrikun. Why? Because we believe that Allah is the Rabb and the Khaliq. They never believe Allah is the Rabb and the Khaliq. They believe that idol is the Rabb and the Khaliq. Incorrect. They used to also believe that Allah is the Rabb and the Khaliq and the Malik, and the creator of them and the creator of everything. They should use the idols as a means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We do not worship them except that they take us close to Allah. هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. They are our intercession towards Allah. That shirk was same as the shirk of today. So why does a person not enter into Islam, the mere basis of rububiyyah? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in numerous ayat in the Quran that the likes of Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, they also accepted the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, even Fir'aun, who said, قَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمْ, what did he say, Abdullah? Al-A'la. He said, Fir'aun said, verily, I am your Rabb, the Most High. Sahih? قَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. He never said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, negating al-rububiyyah. He said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, out of arrogance, but not negating al-rububiyyah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا, that they stubbornly rejected His ayat. وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ, was inside them with yaqeen. They knew these ayat of Allah. So why did they reject these ayat of Allah? ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا, out of arrogance and spite and transgression and tyranny. This is the only reason why they would reject the ayat of Allah. It was never because they rejected rububiyyah. This is why we say that atheism and rejecting al-rububiyyah wal-wujud, this is something which is new. This is what requires evidence. As for al-wujud wa al-iman bil-khaliq wal-rububiyyah, this is the asl. Yeah, I think we'll have to suffice with that, inshallah. What we'll do is next lesson, we'll revise everything we've studied and then we'll complete the rest of the sheet. Jazakumullah.